Hello and welcome to another VEXcode Pro V5 tutorial. This is user control part 3, and here I'm going to be going over arcade control. If you watched the previous video, we talked about motor groups. If you haven't seen that, we're just going to have this code up here. I recommend watching it for an explanation on motor groups. Here we have our map of arcade control, and this is also really just super handy to have, so that way you know what you're trying to do with your code. For this, I'm trying to have the y-axis on the left joystick control forward, backward, and the x-axis on the left joystick control rotation. And this would allow me to control my robot's drivetrain with one joystick, leaving the other open for a lift or intake or something similar. So we're just going to start out with left drive group dot spin. And I'm doing this for left drive group right now, but eventually we'll copy it over for right drive group. Direction type is going to just be forward. You might have to play around with this if you're having some problems and you haven't reversed the motors correctly in robot configuration. Percent units is going to be percent. Imagine that. And then we're going to throw a semicolon at the end. Now the velocity is the interesting and tricky part. So we're going to say controller1.axis, let's see, axis 4. Now we have controller1 axis 4 dot value, and now we're going to say, let me think. We'll start out with minus controller1 dot axis 3 dot value, and I'm going to explain that code. So if the y-axis is positive, then the left side goes forward. That's correct. However, if the x-axis is positive, then it subtracts that value because it's trying to turn right. So what will happen here is if you're pressing at a diagonal, then the left will move forward a little bit. The left will be moving forward, except then it will be subtracted from moving backward, and it will be close to zero value if it's at a perfect 45-degree diagonal. And that means that the robot will simply turn around the center of your left drive and rotate. And that would be a swing turn. And so this way, if you go positively in the x direction and you don't have any movement on the y direction at all, the y moves backward and you do a point turn around the center of the robot. And if there is no movement on axis 3, then left just moves forward or backwards. We're going to copy and paste this with some slight modifications for the right side of our drivetrain, and that little modification is going to be a plus sign instead of the minus sign. So if it's pointed in, so if the joystick is pointed in the diagonal, the right side will be moving forward because it's going forward, and it will also be moving forward because it is trying to turn forward. And as I explained earlier, this will result in a swing turn. So here's your code for your arcade drive, and this way there are other ways to program arcade drive depending on what you're doing, but this is just for a tank drive, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.